My name is Yasin. I've worked in Liverpool for the past 4 years, and one element that I've focused on is the slave trade, in terms of how different ports or cities around the country have actually contributed towards that. And there's an International Slavery Museum which is there, and a fantastic source of understanding about history. And I think it just links back to what was mentioned earlier. But I was quite surprised to find the history of Birmingham in the slave trade, to find out that 10 rifles would equate to a slave. And sometimes I felt that as I'm dealing with my children and teaching them about different things about history, to actually find out some of the things that how different cities have contributed to different things. But ultimately, it's how we can move on from that and actually understand what role we can play within different communities, learning from history, but moving forward in terms of general aspects of gender equality and diversity. I must just say, for the organisers, absolutely fantastic range of events that you've arranged. So thank you for that as well.
So any questions to anyone of the panel to address? Anyone in particular?
It should be a surprise because you all know that we've got this great chocolate called Cadbury's in Birmingham, but none of us have seen a cocoa tree on Lakeville Road anytime recently. But also, more interestingly, it's systemic, what you're talking about. So, for example, sugar. Who's the biggest manufacturer of sugar till today? Name them. Tate and Lyle. So do your research. Tate owned the ships, Lyle owned the plantations, and they did a joint venture. Matthew Bolton. If you go on Broad Street, you see this image of, not the college, by the way, you see this image of 3 gold men on Broad Street. They were the Apple of that era. They created the steam engines, but the steam engines were used to carry what? Coal, sugar cane, maybe humans. So historically, yeah, Birmingham is, you know, people often say, oh, we've got more canals than Venice, but that's got nothing to do with gondolas and romance. That's to do with shipping products. Armory Road in Small Heath. You know, where were the chains made for slavery? Birmingham and surrounding. The Black Country. So my question is, history is important, and one of the questions I was asking people the other day is, do we need to have Black History Month, considering we teach history in schools? But the question is, whose history? I still don't know why I was taught about drawbridges and castles, to be honest. It has its place, but there's also a thing called hidden curriculum. And we won't get into Birmingham education because that's a, you know what.
No, that's fine.
Okay, I've got one message that's been texted in. Actually, I've got a few. What can the many, let's say, Asian background mosques do to engage the Black community? This may also apply to other places of worship. Doesn't say who the question was pointed at, so I will probably not ask for this one.
Okay, sorry, yeah. I think the first thing is today just being aware of the reality. And we have to listen to our brothers and sisters. This is the thing, listen to them and accept their reality. This is the experiences that they're having. Don't be in denial of that. Don't brush it under the carpet. We're talking about individuals who have often been alienated and rejected by their own families because they've embraced Islam. They're looking for a family, and they come into the Muslim family feeling they're going to be embraced, then to be confronted with rejection, and to also be cast out. That's a double rejection, that's a double whammy. And I think the first thing is just to listen to the stories that we've heard today and accept this as a reality. And the second thing is this, then of course the whole spirit of the masjid, based on the mosque of the Prophet ﷺ in Medina, is that this is a hub, not just for the Muslim people, for the whole community. This is the hub from which all of the educational, social welfare, youth activities, community activities emanate from. So the mosque has to be inclusive. This is core to the nature of what the mosque is. And we need to start transforming our masajid. It's as simple as that. You know, where do we find mosques that are that inclusive, that anyone in that community, be they Muslim or non-Muslim, because where does it say that, yes, of course the masjid is for us to observe our 5 daily prayers and to engage in our worship. that probably constitutes 20% of the time in the week. That means 80% of the time, that asset, that building, often multi-million pounds at the moment, is not used to its potential. What do we do with the rest of the time, that 80% of the time? It has to be made inclusive, opened up as the community hub for the whole community, so that we should come to the point, and brothers and sisters who are involved in mosques at the moment, this is the benchmark that you need to set yourself. Anyone in my community, irrespective of their background, feels so comfortable with the mosque that they feel they can go up to the imam and talk to the imam about any subject whatsoever. And they feel so comfortable with the mosque that they feel that they can enter into the mosque, and that the masjid is adding value to the community. Value to the community. I've got to say, the reality is I go to so many mosque openings, and the mosque openings start off with such fanfare and so much celebration. Allahu Akbar, we've set up the mosque. And I always start by saying, people think by setting up the mosque, the job is done. No, the job has just started. It's just started. And then what I often say is that for a lot of mosques, we put blinds on the windows, and we put shutters down, and, things like that. Why? The mosque should always be, as an institution, just like the mosque of the Prophet ﷺ, is external facing, not inward facing. It serves the community, it doesn't serve itself. So this is really a fundamental problem with the mosque. I would say that just as people who convert to Islam from different backgrounds feel excluded in the mosque, in the same way young people feel excluded from the mosque as well. Women feel excluded from the mosque. And though really this is all about fundamentally reforming that. There's nothing wrong with having a mosque run by Yemeni people, or Pakistani people, or Gujarati people, or West Nigerian people. There's nothing wrong with that, just so long as they recognize and accept this is a responsibility given to them, so they are khadims. They do the service, and they serve the whole community. If they can't do that, they can be held to account for that.
We have a question at the back here from the sister.
The one who is a proper Muslim, a true believer, is a mockery. So we can't be calling each other, kafir, and these negative, ignorant ways. We are suffering from white supremacy, and we need to acknowledge it. We're not. Sorry. There's no way around it.
No way.
We, as black people, we have to deal with it. If the Asians want to look at it and think that they don't suffer from it, they deny themselves. From all the cultures, we are all suffering from it. And that's what we need to come back on. This one thing, this one thing.
You see, this is why the Q&A is such an integral part to every event. The Q&A is one of my best parts. But unfortunately, we're going to have to try to keep it to the questions as well, because otherwise we have to add another hour at least to this event, which I'm quite happy to do, actually, to be honest with you. It is very important. It is very important. But what we need to do is let's make benefits of the panel that we have today. Because, yeah? Okay,
All right. First of all, Assalamu alaikum. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent and Merciful. We have to address hard truths in Islam. And those hard truths have just been mentioned by my sister, so there's a little more that needs to be said. We've got to look at, we war not against flesh and blood, but the rulers of, and principalities and powers and the rulers of the darkness and spiritual wickedness in high places. Those high places are run by certain people. Let's look at the hard truths. Now, it was, and I love what you, the evening, very, very inspiring. Thank you very much. I'll say, what is the reason why when you talk about Malcolm X, that we always insist on missing out the contribution, the absolutely undeniable contribution of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad and the teachings of the Nation of Islam? Why do we do that? It just smacks of conspiracy. It really does. Because we seriously always miss out why Malcolm read the dictionary and what happened when he came out. So I'll just say that that's in with all due respect. With all due respect. The question is, what does Islam do about those who are not righteous? Because the best of you is those who are most righteous. What does Islam need to do about those who are not righteous or are the worst of them in terms of how we address the condition of black people.
Okay, thank you. Anybody want to address that one? Raymond?
The story is a long story, and everybody knows the story of Malcolm for the most part. And the catalyst what you're referring to in terms of his years in the nation is a story that's widely known. What we're referring to today, though, my brother, is that when he said, Rahmatullah alayhi, that he didn't see any difference between himself and the white man. This is what he died on. This is what he was buried on. And that the wider society could benefit from seeing this. However, and I'm an advocate for this, your spiritual reality doesn't change your social reality. So if I take my Shahada, I'm still 7 times more likely to be stopped and searched. I'm still 7 times more likely to be admitted into mental health. The 47% that I spoke to you about, I've been in prisons where you look at you're in the staff room and you look out into the yard and you just see black and Asian. Hard truth. That's hard truth. So it's an honest conversation. However, there are other examples. For me, myself, my personal opinion, sometimes it brings me to eye-watering how Allah placed Bilal next to the Prophet ﷺ. Because Allah knew that those Arabs were systemically racist. So Allah gave them that. Handle that. So all the politics and all the other issues of us as humans, but ultimately Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows the nature of the human and knows the nature of man. And I don't like at the same time, I don't like the way that Bilal radiallahu anhu has been totally racialized as a Sahaba. Because he was a righteous man who happened to be an Abyssinian. And so back to Malcolm rahmatullah alayhi, we know the story, but what I will say is the lessons for me are how he was buried and what he died upon. And he died upon understanding that we are brothers in humanity.
Sometimes we get involved in part of the debate, which we haven't really got the ability to change or influence or affect. And what I really want, I think the real spirit of what tonight is about is every individual in this room having empathy for our brothers and sisters, listening to their stories, listening to their realities, as Raymond said as well, having a bit of discomfort, because that challenges us and pushes us out of our comfort zone. But each one of us individually, I think, making changes. And I think this is the prophetic methodology. The Prophet ﷺ in that society, and we have to ask ourselves, whenever we see this reality, what would the Prophet ﷺ have done? And we know there are some clear principles. One, always seek the moral high ground. Always seek to be the one who is just and fair, and always has solidarity with the oppressed and not the oppressor. I think that's the simple methodology that I would like myself to take away. I've been enlightened tonight. I'm very grateful to the brothers and sisters who have given me education and guidance tonight. But I think that's the thing we can all practically take away so that we can start affecting real change in what I can influence here and now. And if all of us did that bit of always striving to be upon the balance, upon the prophetic methodology, then the ripple effects of all of that would culminate into a tsunami of change. And inshallah, may Allah Ta'ala enable that to happen.
I think, when I come through the city centre and I see other faith communities with their vans parked up and their doors open and they're feeding the homeless, and they're doing it every day, every other day. And I think one of the criticisms that is directed towards the Muslim community is that we are so introverted in the sense that we don't contribute. And I think we need to start seeing our community start addressing the DV and addressing the homelessness. 20 million pounds leaves this country every Ramadan in zakat and sadaqah. And you think about that as a figure. Recently in London, they opened an 8-bed rehabilitation centre for young Muslims involved in the criminal justice system. There's some halfway houses starting to be worked upon. There's resettlement and domestic violence centres paid for by zakat. We need to start standing up and contributing to our community And to conclude on the same way I said this, recently I was in a drugs program, not me. I was in a drugs program in the centre, and I was in the back office, and a young, white, I'll give you all the labels, white working class woman walked in. I could hear her, and I saw her walk past. She'd just been released from prison, and she had a substance misuse problem. So you can imagine multi-layered issues. And the organisation, our referral organisation, which are run by Muslims, and this is what I heard her say. She said, I need to get my voucher for my food bank. Can you give me the one run by the masjid, the mosque up there, please? Because they give me a better service. Allahu Akbar.
Jazakallah khair.